Welcome to the Command Center team. You agents have been recruited here by the Malaria Task Force. I'm Agent Plasmodium. As you know, we've been hit with a severe malaria outbreak in this community. We're seeing cases of Plasmodium falciparum in nearly every household. This is a critical situation. We need a coordinated, multifaceted response. Malaria is caused by the Plasmodium parasite, which is transmitted from the Anopheles mosquito. After an infected mosquito bites a human, the parasite enters the bloodstream and first travels to the liver where it matures. From there, it will infect red blood cells, causing them to rupture and release new merozoite parasites. This process leads to the hallmark symptoms of malaria, which is fever, chills, anemia, and in severe cases can lead to cerebral malaria. These new parasites, however, are only half the picture. Similar to how plant species undergo alternation of generations, the mosquito parasites must be uptaken by another mosquito.
What is cerebral malaria?
Great question. Malaria is an advanced stage of the normal malaria process where pretty much the cerebral regions of the brain get infected. It can cause swelling, seizures, and even death. And it's critical that we monitor signs of neurological involvement, especially in high-risk groups.
Our priority right now should be to understand and crack down on how the parasite is spreading and how we can prevent further transmission. Let's cover some basics and move on forward from there.
And that's where I come in. The primary vector is me, the Anopheles mosquito. After I bite an infected person, I pick up the Plasmodium. The Plasmodium gametocytes, which are haploid and combine and produce zygotes in the midgut wall, which multiply within a female mosquito and replicate in a process called the sporogonic cycle. This cycle produces spores which travel to the mosquito's salivary gland. I can be readily transmitted to a human host through bite. When I bite another person, the sporozoites enter the human host bloodstream and travel to the liver. Once in the liver, the parasites can execute its haploid life cycles and cause damage to the host red blood cell.
Here, right? Exactly, Asian mosquito. We need to target both the parasite, which is me, and the vector, which is you. If we can control the mosquito population and stop new bites, we could reduce the spread of malaria dramatically. However, that's only part of the solution. We need to also consider the infected individuals and the burden on their response system.
Once the parasite enters the bloodstream, it infects red blood cells. Plasmodium replicates inside these cells, causing them to rupture, which releases even more parasites into the bloodstream. The symptoms we see, fever, chills, fatigue, are the results of this process. If you look here, the rupture of red blood cells leads to anemia as the body loses its ability to carry oxygen. As the liver and spleen work to filter out the infected cells, they become enlarged and dysfunctional. If left untreated.
On the immune front, the body's immune system struggles to respond to the Plasmodium infection. Upon initial infection, the innate immune system recognizes the parasite's molecular patterns through pattern recognition receptors on the antigen-presenting cells, which then present the antigens to the B and T cells to trigger antibody production. However, Plasmodium interferes with the T cell cytokine production, disrupting the signaling needed for B cells by the T cells to produce ineffective antibodies, thereby hindering the entire immune response. We also need to understand that immune suppression from factors like malnutrition or concurrent infections, especially in young children, make them more susceptible. For this reason, boosting the immune system with proper nutrition and immediate medical intervention is paramount.
It took you guys long enough to invite me into this meeting. Guys, from a treatment perspective, we need to act fast. The first line treatment for malaria is artemisinin combination therapy, ACT in other words, which has proven effective against Plasmodium falciparum. However, we're seeing a worrying trend of resistance in some areas. If resistance develops, we could lose a major tool in our arsenal. In addition to ACTs, we need to provide supportive care, especially in severe cases. This means fluids, diuretics to control fever and blood transfusions for patients with severe anemia. We need to have enough stock of those medications in place, as well as iron supplements and for those recovering from anemia.
Hang on, could you explain ACT?
Malaria is such a complex challenge, especially with how adaptable the parasite can be to treatments. ACT, it's considered the gold standard for treating malaria. It's fascinating how it works.
But what is the mechanism?
Artemisinin is a fascinating molecule with a unique feature, which is a chemical structure called the antiperoxide bridge. The bridge is the key to its power against malaria. Inside red blood cells, the malaria parasites digest hemoglobin, releasing heme. a molecule rich in iron. When artemisinin encounters heat, the iron triggers a reaction with the endoperoxide bridge, generating free radicals. These free radicals attack the parasite, destroying its proteins, membranes, and even DNA, killing it swiftly.
That's a great point, Asian medicine. I think we need to monitor for drug resistance and adapt our treatment protocols accordingly. As for preventative measures, I can't stress enough how important it is to distribute insecticide-treated bed nets to everyone, especially children and pregnant women. It is the most cost-effective way to significantly reduce transmission.
Insecticide resistance is a major challenge, especially with the Anopheles mosquito, the main malaria vector. Mosquitoes adapt through genetic mutation, making insecticides like pyrethroids less effective. To combat this, we need an integrated plan. First, rotate insecticides from different chemical classes to prevent resistance. Second, use combination treatments like pyrethroids with piperonyl butoxide to target resistant mosquitoes. Third, monitor resistance with tools like PCR to adjust strategies early. And lastly, integrate biological controls like fish that eat larvae or larvicides to reduce reliance on chemicals.
We must prepare for complications from Plasmodium falciparum malaria, as untreated cases can lead to severe organ damage. The parasite infects red blood cells, causing them to become rigid and sticky, which can block small blood vessels in some organs. In the brain, this leads to cerebral malaria, which can result in seizures, coma, or neurological damage. In the lungs, blood flow disruption can cause acute respiratory distress, while in the kidneys, it can lead to renal failure. These blockages reduce oxygen delivery to tissues, causing organ dysfunction and potentially leading to organ failures. Detection is crucial, as timely treatment with anti-malarial drugs can reduce parasitemia, prevent these complications, and improve survival rates. Mobile clinics for monitoring and early intervention in immunocompromised people, especially in remote areas, is key to managing and preventing the increase of severe cases.
Right, and for those who are severely affected, especially children, we need to focus on the immunological support. Plasmodium parasites evade by hiding inside the red blood cells, where they evade detection by the immune system. This immunoevasion allows a parasite to replicate unchecked. Additionally, the infection leads to immunosuppression, weakening the body's ability to fight off not only malaria, but also secondary infections. Providing adequate nutrition supports the immune cell function, while immunotherapy can enhance the immune response. Together, these strategies are essential for recovery and preventing further complications.
Absolutely, immune cells. Here's what I propose for a coordinated response. Number 1, immediate distributions of ACTs to treat active cases. Number 2, deployment of bed nets and insecticide spraying to reduce transmission. Number 3, mobile health units in remote areas and provide urgent care. Number 4, iron supplement and blood transfusions to combat anemia. Number 5, continuous surveillance to monitor for drug resistance and efficacy of interventions.
Agreed, but we also need to remember that malaria is a preventable disease. Education is key. We need to ensure that the public understands how to protect themselves, especially in high-risk areas.
Exactly. Prevention starts with awareness. People need to know that we are not just fighting mosquitoes, but the parasite itself. I'll work on the community outreach program, explaining the importance of mosquito control and personal protection.
And I'll focus on ensuring that the healthcare teams have the resources needed to manage the immune complications, like secondary infections, and the patients are monitored for signs of severe malaria, particularly cerebral malaria.
Help coordinate with local clinics to set up screening stations specifically in the most affected areas. Early diagnosis is critical for preventing severe complications.
Alright team, before we break, let's agree on one thing. This response needs to be adaptive. Malaria is unpredictable, and the situation can change rapidly. Our approach must be flexible enough to scale up resources or change tactics as the situation develops.
Right, we've got a solid plan in place, but we must stay vigilant. Monitoring the spread of the parasite and any potential changes in resistance will guide our next steps.
Understood. I'll start coordinating mosquito control efforts immediately, targeting the breeding sites first.
And I'll focus on building an immune response, especially for the most vulnerable populations. Maybe boost some cytokine production?
And I will organize the logistics for treatment and ensure we have enough medications in place. We'll need a constant flow of resources and a clear communication strategy.
Alright team, let's do this. The clock is ticking and every hour counts. Together we can stop this outbreak in its tracks.